Title: AITA for lying about my biggest fear on a quiz show and winning a car, making the other contestants lose. This has become a hot topic in my family recently. I live on a tiny, fairly obscure island near the UK. We have this local quiz show that airs on TV, and a few years ago I was a contestant on it. The premise of the show is that you win prizes by completing different kinds of challenges. Some are physical, some are psychological, and some are problem-solving or logic-based. I did really well on the physical challenges because at the time I was in decent shape and pretty active. The problem-solving parts leaned heavily on maths, which is my actual career, so I was very comfortable with those too. The psychological challenge was the one that worried me. For that part, each contestant had to go into a clear box like a see-through room, filled with something they were supposedly terrified of. Inside that box, you had to search through whatever it was and find clues that would lead you to the next stage of the game. Before going on the show, we had to fill out a form listing 5 things we were afraid of. They said it was to help design the psychological challenge. I decided right then that I was going to lie. I thought of 5 things that I am absolutely not scared of and put those down instead. I grew up in a rural area surrounded by nature and all kinds of creepy crawlies. Bugs, spiders, random wildlife, none of that has ever really bothered me. So on the form, I listed spiders, cockroaches, snakes, scorpions, and woodlice as my biggest fears. In reality, I could not care less about any of those. My actual biggest fear is a lot more obscure and personal, and I knew that if they put me in a room full of that, I would completely shut down and fail the challenge. I figured the show was a game, and part of playing a game is using strategy. They never said we had to be honest, and there was no lie detector or anything. It was just a questionnaire. So I treated it like part of the game. When it came time for the psychological challenge, they led me to this big clear box. I had to strip down to my boxers, and I was barefoot. The host made a big dramatic speech about how I'd be facing one of my worst fears. Then they opened the door, and I saw that the entire floor and walls were crawling with cockroaches. There were cockroaches everywhere. They were on the floor, on the walls, in little piles in the corners. The sound of them skittering around was honestly disgusting. I stepped in and immediately felt them crunching and moving under my bare feet. I won't pretend it wasn't gross, because it absolutely was. But I wasn't scared. Uncomfortable, yes. Terrified, no. The challenge was to find a certain number of small tokens hidden in the box within a set time limit. The tokens were mixed in with the cockroaches, under little trays, in corners, that kind of thing. I had to dig through them with my hands, move them around, and basically wade through this living carpet of bugs. I focused on the clock and treated it like a puzzle. I moved quickly, tried not to think too much about what I was touching, and just got on with it. I found all the tokens within the time limit and made it through to the next stage. Later, I found out that the other contestants had all listed their genuine fears. One person had a room full of snakes, another had spiders, another had something like confined spaces. A couple of them froze up and couldn't complete the task. Some tried, but ran out of time because they were panicking. In the end, I was the only one who successfully completed the psychological challenge. Because of that, I advanced and ended up winning one of the main prizes, a car. It wasn't some super luxury vehicle, just a pretty average new car, but it was still a big prize. I did not particularly want that specific car, so as soon as I legally could, I sold it. Since it was basically brand new, I got a good price for it and used the money to buy myself a nicer car that I actually liked. Fast forward to recently. I was at a family get-together, and we were all drinking and telling old stories. I brought up the quiz show and, feeling a bit loose-tongued, I admitted that I had lied on the fear questionnaire. I told them that I had deliberately listed things I wasn't scared of, and that my real fear never came up on the show at all. Everyone laughed at first. A few of my relatives thought it was hilarious and said it was clever strategy. They said the other contestants should have thought ahead and done the same thing, and that if you go on a game show, you should expect people to play to win. But then the debate started. Some of my family members said it was basically cheating. Their argument is that the show was clearly designed around the idea of people facing their genuine fears, and by lying, I undermined the spirit of the game. They feel bad for the other contestants, who were genuinely terrified and failed, while I just had to deal with something gross but manageable. Others in the family are firmly on my side. They say the show never explicitly said we had to tell the truth, that it was just a form, and that if the producers wanted honesty, they should have had a better system. They think the other contestants lost because they were too honest in a competitive environment, and that I simply played smarter. I'm obviously in the latter camp. I see it as using my brain and protecting myself from a situation where I knew I would have no chance. But now I'm wondering if I crossed some ethical line by doing that, especially since I walked away with a car and the others didn't. So, AITA for lying about my biggest fear on a quiz show, winning a car because of it, and effectively making the other contestants lose.